Chapter 11. All is Brahman and I am that. Listen, blemishless Nidaga. There is never any such word as duality. Always all is of the nature of Brahman. This is the truth. This is the truth. There is no doubt about it. I say this in the name of Shiva, the perfectly full and all-pervasive. I repeat this. There is no doubt. There is no doubt about this. This is the substance of the crest of the Vedas, graciously revealed by the Supreme Shiva, the mass of bliss. There is nothing at all of this world or individual. Apart from Brahman, the truth, the pure consciousness, the peaceful, the constant mass of bliss, the supple, the eternal, the attributeless, the spotless, the taintless of the nature of this formless, the perfect fullness, the immobile, immovable, which is non-dual, and which is not different from the self. All this is ever of the nature of Brahman. Sankalpa and Vikalpa are of the nature of Brahman. All the world which is subject to decay is of the nature of Brahman. All the bodies therein are of the nature of Brahman. All their senses are of the nature of Brahman. All beings here are of the nature of Brahman. The enjoyment they experience is the nature of Brahman. There is nothing besides the partless Brahman. All that is seen is of the nature of Brahman. All worldly things are of the nature of Brahman. All the variety that is seen is of the nature of Brahman. All that appears as permanent is of the nature of Brahman. All that appears as transient is of the nature of Brahman. Ignorance, likewise, is of the nature of Brahman. The result, therefore, are entirely of the nature of Brahman. There is not an atom apart from Brahman, the truth. All ever is of the nature of Brahman. The pentad of elements such as space and others are of the nature of Brahman. All of nature born out of these is of the nature of Brahman. The triad of bodies subject to destruction is of the nature of Brahman. The three states of existence are of the nature of Brahman. The experience and the experiencer are of the nature of Brahman. All that is sentient is of the nature of Brahman. There is not an atom apart from Brahman, the mass of knowledge. All things, the world and others, are of the nature of Brahman. What appears as delusion is of the nature of Brahman. What appears as the mind and such is of the nature of Brahman. What appears as the body is of the nature of Brahman. All of what appears as a thing seen is of the nature of Brahman. What appears desirable is of the nature of Brahman. What appears as permanent is of the nature of Brahman. There is not an atom apart from the pure Supreme Brahman. All appearances that arise are of the nature of Brahman. What appears as incomplete is of the nature of Brahman. What appears as good and bad qualities is of the nature of Brahman. What appears as complete is of the nature of Brahman. What appears as you and I is of the nature of Brahman. What appears as God is of the nature of Brahman. What appears as his action is of the nature of Brahman. There is not an atom apart from Brahman of the nature of knowledge. All varieties of appearances are of the nature of Brahman. All the gods and demons are of the nature of Brahman. The pentad of deities, Brahma and others, are of the nature of Brahman. All their actions are of the nature of Brahman. The perfectly full Mahadeva is of the nature of Brahman. Divine Uma Devi is of the nature of Brahman. Shining Skanda and Vinayaka are of the nature of Brahman. There is not an atom apart from the Supreme Brahman. All thoughts that are thought of are of the nature of Brahman. The retinue of the Supreme Shiva is all of the nature of Brahman. All the great sages are of the nature of Brahman. The Vedas and the crest of the Vedas are all of the nature of Brahman. All the recollected Smriti are of the nature of Brahman. All associated Purana are of the nature of Brahman. All other treatises are of the nature of Brahman. There is not an atom apart from the indivisible Supreme Brahman. All that appears as differentiated is of the nature of Brahman. The unsullied Pranava is of the nature of Brahman. All the great aphorisms are of the nature of Brahman. Pure Shravana is of the nature of Brahman. Reasoning and reflection are of the nature of Brahman. Pure meditation is of the nature of Brahman. Unvarying knowledge is of the nature of Brahman. There is not an atom apart from Brahman, the equanimous. All ever is of the nature of Brahman. All the substance of the learned treatise is of the nature of Brahman. All the fruits of the learned treatise are of the nature of Brahman. All that is associated with the learned treatise is of the nature of Brahman. All qualified are of the nature of Brahman. All means are of the nature of Brahman. All associated ends are of the nature of Brahman. There is not an atom apart from the eternal Brahman. All ever is of the nature of Brahman. Faultless devotion is of the nature of Brahman. The concept of Ishvara is of the nature of Brahman. Past and other times are of the nature of Brahman. All countries are of the nature of Brahman. All the differentiated things are of the nature of Brahman. All differences that are spoken of are of the nature of Brahman. There is not an atom apart from Brahman, the mass of knowledge. All of what is seen through the senses is of the nature of Brahman. All holy shrines are of the nature of Brahman. All good and bad acts done there are of the nature of Brahman. All the rest of the actions are of the nature of Brahman. The delusion of I and others is of the nature of Brahman. Heaven and hell are of the nature of Brahman. The fear of hell and the enjoyment of heaven are of the nature of Brahman. There is not an atom apart from Brahman, the mass of knowledge. The knower and the knowledge are all of the nature of Brahman. Happiness and sorrow, praise and indignity are all of the nature of Brahman. Reputation, birth and death are of the nature of Brahman. Success and failure as appropriate are of the nature of Brahman. The sentient and the insentient are of the nature of Brahman. The moving and the unmoving are of the nature of Brahman. All abounding bondage and liberation are of the nature of Brahman. There is not an atom apart from Brahman, the undecaying. All that is seen as a part is of the nature of Brahman. All things like mine and such are of the nature of Brahman. The 5 sheets are of the nature of Brahman. The variegated universe is of the nature of Brahman. Vyasti, Samasti are of the nature of Brahman. There is not an atom apart from Brahman, the eternal. All events that occur are of the nature of Brahman. Truly I say this in the name of Shiva. There is no doubt. There is no doubt. This is the truth. The beginning and the end are of the nature of Brahman. The bottom, the top and the middle are all of the nature of Brahman. The past and the future too are of the nature of Brahman. All that is the present is of the nature of Brahman. There is not an atom apart from the differenceless Brahman. All that is seen as different is of the nature of Brahman. This I say in the name of Shiva, the originless. There is no doubt of this. This is the truth. What is seen is of the nature of Brahman. The one who sees this is of the nature of Brahman. What is seen as different is of the nature of Brahman. What is seen as differenceless is of the nature of Brahman. There is not an atom apart from Brahman, the shining. All of whatever is seen through the senses is of the nature of Brahman. There is no doubt in what is declared here. In the name of Shiva, this is the truth. Dark ignorance is of the nature of Brahman. Duality which is generated by it is of the nature of Brahman. The blissful knowledge is of the nature of Brahman. The unalterable natural state is of the nature of Brahman. There is not an atom apart from Brahman, the shining. All the appearances that are seen are of the nature of Brahman. In the name of the Supreme Shiva, the Peerless, there is no doubt of what is said. This is the truth. The extensive world is of the nature of Brahman. All interactions are of the nature of Brahman. All philosophy is of the nature of Brahman. The Supreme and the individual are of the nature of Brahman. There is not an atom apart from Brahman, the indivisible. All of what is seen as divided is of the nature of Brahman. There is no doubt of what is said. In the name of the Guru, the Supreme Shiva, this is the truth. What is perceived as the world, individual, and the Supreme are all a superimposition on Brahman of the nature of consciousness. Hence, the Jiva and other such superimpositions are all Brahman, which is a substratum. I am that Brahman alone. With a trouble-free awareness of this, you will become liberated. In the name of the pure Supreme Shiva feet, there is no doubt in what has been said. This is the truth. Indeed, I am the Supreme Brahman, the substratum of all. Indeed, I am the Supreme Brahman of the nature of the self of all. Indeed, I am the shining Supreme Brahman of the nature of consciousness. Indeed, I am the Supreme Brahman, mere existence alone. Indeed, I am the Supreme Brahman, the pureless mass of bliss. Indeed, I am the Supreme Brahman, the pure, the partless. Indeed, I am the Supreme Brahman, the complete perfect fullness. Realize this, son, always without any delusion. Indeed, I am Brahman, the eternal, the attributeless. Indeed, I am Brahman, the always perfectly full. Indeed, I am Brahman, the mass of existence, consciousness, bliss. Indeed, I am Brahman, the ever changelessness. Indeed, I am Brahman, the highly mysterious. Indeed, I am Brahman, the highly peaceful. Indeed, I am the undivided Supreme Brahman, beyond explanation. Realize this ever, son, without any delusion. Indeed, I am of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, the ancient. Indeed, I am of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, the permanent. Indeed, I am of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, the indestructible. Indeed, I am of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, the all-pervasive. Indeed, I am of the nature of the Supreme Brahman without mind and such. Indeed, I am of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, the great. Indeed, I am of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, the afflictionless. Realize this ever, son, without any delusion. Indeed, I am only the Supreme Brahman, which is unfragmented. Indeed, I am the Supreme Brahman, the Supreme Light. Indeed, I am only Brahman without dawn or day. Indeed, I am only Brahman without cause and effect. Indeed, I am the one Supreme Brahman, which is everywhere. Indeed, I am only the undivided Supreme Brahman without a second. Indeed, I am the pure, partless, Supreme Brahman. Realize this ever, son, without any delusion. Indeed, I am Brahman, the Guru of the Guru. Indeed, I am the Supreme Brahman which transcends attribute. Indeed, I am Brahman which is beyond the seen. Indeed, I am Brahman which has not an atom to see. Indeed, I am Brahman beyond the reach of the Vedas. Indeed, I am Brahman which is the void of pure consciousness. Indeed, I am Brahman which is the grace of grace. Realize this ever, son, without any delusion. Indeed, I am Brahman which is not a cause. Indeed, I am Brahman which is beyond imagination. Indeed, I am Brahman which is not even an atom. Indeed, I am Brahman which cannot be comprehended by anything. Indeed, I am Brahman which is only of the nature of complete consciousness. Indeed, I am Brahman which is pure existence and ancient. Indeed, I am Brahman which is not comprehended by the Vedas. Realize this ever, son, without any delusion. Indeed, I am Brahman, the unsurpassed mass of bliss. Indeed, I am Brahman which is eternal and taintless. Indeed, I am Brahman which is untouched by ignorance. Indeed, I am Brahman which is the purport of the great aphorism. Indeed, I am Brahman which is higher than the highest. Indeed, I am Brahman devoid of any difference of the individual and the supreme. Indeed, I am Brahman, the invisible and undivided. Realize this ever, son, without any delusion. Indeed, I am Brahman, the ever auspicious. Indeed, I am Brahman which conducts all. Indeed, I am Brahman which is existence, knowledge, bliss. Indeed, I am Brahman without the world, individual and the supreme. Indeed, I am Brahman which is infinitely pervasive. Indeed, I am Brahman to be comprehended through Vedanta. Indeed, I am Brahman, undivided and non-dual. Realize this ever, son, without any delusion. Indeed, I am of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is synonymous with the word consciousness. Indeed, I am of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is consciousness alone. Indeed, I am of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is without illusion. Indeed, I am of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is blemishless. Indeed, I am of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, synonymous with the word that. Indeed, I am of the nature of Supreme Brahman, which has no impediments. Indeed, I am of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is a wonder. Realize this ever, son, without any delusion. Indeed, I am ever the pure Supreme Brahman. Indeed, I am ever the pure Brahman, which is knowledge. Indeed, I am ever the Supreme Brahman, liberation. Indeed, I am ever the Supreme Brahman, the substratum. Indeed, I am ever the Supreme Brahman, the blissful. Indeed, I am ever the Supreme Brahman, the ever sheethless. Indeed, I am ever the undivided, non-dual Supreme Brahman. Realize this ever, son, without any delusion. Indeed, I am Brahman, which is eternal bliss alone. Indeed, I am Brahman, which is eternal bliss alone. Indeed, I am Brahman, which is consciousness bliss alone. Indeed, I am Brahman, which is consciousness bliss alone. Indeed, I am Brahman, which is the fullness of grace. Indeed, I am Brahman, which is the fullness of grace. Indeed, I am the Supreme Brahman, which is a space of consciousness. Realize this ever, son, without any delusion. Indeed, I am Brahman, which manifests as I, Indeed, I am Brahman, which is not different from the self. Indeed, I am Brahman, which appears as all. Indeed, I am Brahman, which is nothing at all. Indeed, I am Brahman, which is all, complete and perfectly full. Indeed, I am Brahman, which is established without interstices. Indeed, I am Brahman, which is devoid of all characteristic. Realize this ever Son without any delusion. There is not even an atom without the undivided Supreme Brahman. Not even an atom, not even an atom, not an atom. The undivided Supreme Brahman is all. You are that. I am that. Everyone is the undivided Supreme Brahman. In the name of Shiva, there is no doubt concerning what has been said, no doubt. Indeed, I am the undivided Supreme Brahman. Realize this ever Son without any delusion. The Lord, the world, the individual, which are superimposition on me, are never different or apart from me, never. Be liberated by realizing without delusion that the individual, the Lord, and world are entirely I myself. There is no doubt of what has been said. This is the truth. This I say in the name of Shiva, the ever free. Whatever superimposition is seen as an illusion in the mind is only the knowledge of the substratum and nothing else. The Supreme Brahman is of the nature of knowledge. You are the nature of knowledge. Hence, whatever is seen as knowledge in you is yourself, who are the knowledge. By realizing thus, without doubt, you will become the Supreme Brahman of the nature of knowledge and be liberated from the bondage of recurrent birth and death. Like the axiom that the wave seen in the water is the same water from beginning to end, the world, the individual, the Supreme, which are seen in you consciousness, are only yourself consciousness. For this conclusion, by the word of the Vedas and by the command of Shiva, realizing I am all and I am by no means insignificant Brahman, you will stand liberated from the bondage of recurrent birth and death. The world and being and others seen in consciousness are not apart from Brahman, which is of the nature of consciousness. I am not apart from that Brahman. Likewise, Brahman is not apart from me. By realizing the undivided, non-dual Supreme Brahman, that all kind of appearances are Brahman, and I am that Brahman without a second, you will be liberated from the bondage of recurrent birth and death. All is of the nature of Brahman, the mass of existence. All is of the nature of Brahman, the mass of consciousness. All is the nature of Brahman, the mass of bliss. All is of the nature of Supreme Brahman, the undivided. I am that undivided Supreme Brahman. I am completely that Brahman. Realizing faultlessly this indivisible Supreme knowledge, you will be liberated from the bondage of recurrent birth and death. There is not an atom apart from me. There is not an atom apart from me. I, the indivisible, am ever Brahman. I, the indivisible, am ever Brahman. I am the undivided Supreme Brahman with nothing other. I am the undivided Supreme Brahman with nothing other. By having this steadfast, undivided knowledge, you will be liberated from the bondage of recurrent birth and death. Always all is Brahman. I myself am that changeless Brahman, as graciously expounded to me by the Lord. I have explained this realization to you, Son, by this means, so that all who are desirous of liberation can reflect on it and rid the recurrent birth, death cycle, attain liberation. Whoever listens to and understands this devoutly and devout delusion will himself become Brahman. Even if one is not capable of realizing this exposition as explained, yet even by reading this daily with love, or contemplating upon it, or by reciting this to others, one can have these impurities removed and attaining the knowledge of the undivided, indivisible supreme knowledge. Become oneself the differenceless supreme Brahman. Only one who constantly, untiringly worship the supreme Shiva, existence, consciousness, bliss, will realize that eternal, partless Shiva clearly, and with the knots of the mind cut asunder, merge in the supreme Shiva. Attaining the joy of liberation, he himself becomes Shiva. Fools devout of devotion will never attain the supreme joy of liberation. Hence, all those desirous of liberation should daily and constantly worship the Supreme Shiva, and by the grace of the Supreme Shiva, who transcends the Vedas, and by the knowledge that all is the Supreme Brahman, which is myself, attain liberation. Thus, Ribhu graciously explained to Nidaga the undivided supreme knowledge for getting rid of all the bondage of the originless cycle of birth and death. It is the infinite form of our Lord in a state of joyous dance, though beyond the range of words and mind, that liberates from the cycle of birth and death those who take refuge in Him. By expounding the knowledge that all appearances that are seen as objects of perceptions are nothing but the perceiver, Brahman, the mass of consciousness, and that the Supreme Brahman is myself.